From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us on the Noon News. I'm Diane Parker. Ed has our weekend forecast. Plus, Red Lodge looks at capping short-term rental properties. That controversy coming up. But first, our top story. Marking the anniversary of last summer's devastating floods across south central Montana this week, we've heard stories of rescue and recovery, but one thing we've yet to examine is the cost. This noon, MTN's Jackie Coffin finds out if you can put a dollar figure on devastation.
It was a year ago that I visited the Wilcox homestead here near Absaroka, and I was walking through this area in fishing waders in near chest-high waters. Coming back, I found out how the family and their livelihood is still being affected by that flood.
I've been up every night for a week at 4 in the morning because it was 4 in the morning when I woke up hearing the roar of the river.
1 year can make a dramatic difference. The difference of a river, the difference of a road. For the Wilcox family, who run a multi-generational ranch and tourism business, it's the difference of a major disaster.
You don't get over it.
Dealing with silt, debris, and crumbling riverbanks, Wanda Wilcox says one of the most enduring and frustrating parts of rebuilding after the flood is trying to find help.
The only help they had was an SBA. So I had to mortgage my house so we could get the SBA loan to get the money.
Wilcox's experience is similar to others living in the aftermath of the flood, bouncing between government and private agencies trying to figure out aid for damaged and destroyed property, only to find dead-end roads and debt.
A year later, we're still in the same boat. We did get some funding, but yet you have to come up with the money to have the government funding.
And the cost of the flood has been huge.
I think that pain is quite real.
Montana Disaster Emergency Services says $46 million of public assistance is spread out in nearly 200 projects across the flood zone. And unique in this type of disaster, says economist Pat Barkey, is the impact on businesses.
It either destroyed the businesses literally, or it destroyed access to the businesses.
Impacts to Montana businesses range from multi-million-dollar losses at the Sibanya-Stillwater mine to losses of tourism and agriculture seasons throughout several small communities. But Barkey says the flood has also created jobs.
Anybody with an excavator, anybody in road building.
As for Wilcox, the need for repairs is urgent as the river changed course, running closer to her guest house.
I just want to hang on to everybody's hand and say we're all in the same boat. We'll get through this together one way or another, but it's difficult figuring out how to get through it because we don't know.
Near Absaroka, Jackie Coffin, MTN News.
New this noon, the Federal Reserve will indeed hit the pause button on interest rate hikes, leaving them unchanged after 10 straight increases in its effort to fight inflation. However, Fed Chair Jerome Powell warned that more increases would likely be necessary in the future. The announcement comes as the latest Labor Department data shows the Consumer Price Index for May only rose 4%, though the Fed's target is 2% inflation. Montana's budget for the next 2 years is set in stone. Governor Greg Gianforte just signed the legislature's $14 billion spending bill into law. It includes money for new state troopers, prosecutors to combat crime, and hundreds of millions for infrastructure. The governor's office says it saves Montanans $40 million over the next 2 years by paying off all of the state's general obligation debt. A transgender woman whose planned speaking engagement at the Butte Library was canceled earlier this month by the city due to a new state law is coming to Butte next week. Billings journalist and activist Adria Jawart is speaking Tuesday, June 20th at the Carpenters Union Hall. The Butte America Foundation and KBMF are hosting the speaker, who was denied a chance to speak at the library June 2nd after the Butte County Attorney's Office feared her appearance would violate House Bill 359, banning trans shows in schools or public libraries. The event is open to the public. An ex-Colstrip police officer will spend most of the next decade in prison for coercing an underage girl to send him sexually explicit images. 49-year-old Hossein Boren was handed an 8-year sentence yesterday. Prosecutors say he used his position in law enforcement to gain the trust and friendship of the girl, carrying on a secret relationship with her for almost a year under the guise of being her mentor, counselor, and therapist. Bourne admitted to sending the minor 20 sexual pictures and videos of himself and estimated receiving hundreds from her. He must also pay more than $4,000 in restitution. And that's a look at some of the day's top stories.
There'll be some ups and downs in the weather pattern over the course of the next week, but really as we take it ahead with the 6 to 10 day outlook, looking into the middle to end of next week, most of our region is leaning to wetter than average conditions, especially west of the Continental Divide, a 40% chance that we could have more moisture than we typically would based on the 30-year average. But it's the temperatures that really stand out for us. Check it out. We're looking cooler anywhere from 33% chance up to a 70% chance in southwest Montana that we're going to have cooler than average readings by the middle to end of next week. We'll give you the preview of what's going to lead up to that. The complete forecast details in a few minutes.
Many people who work in Red Lodge can't find a place to live there. City leaders think they have a plan to fix that, but some are worried it will hurt the town's tourism industry. MTN's Charlie Kleps reports.
The city of Red Lodge is a community that thrives off of its tourism, but it soon could become more challenging to find a place to stay here, as the city is reviewing a potential cap on short-term rentals within city limits. People visit Red Lodge for a variety of reasons.
It could be for skiing, Beartooth Pass, going hiking, weddings.
Those reasons mean a lot to Chelsea Tupin, who owns and operates a rental company in town called Red Lodge Reservations.
All we really want to do is make sure that everyone's happy, and that includes, again, the owners of the properties, who we consider our partners, the guests that are coming in.
She manages 19 different short-term rentals, most of which reside within city limits. Her business, like many others in town, relies heavily on tourism.
We have a really sensitive economy here that does thrive off of tourism. And it's not saying that's the only industry here, but tourism is the backbone that holds it together.
However, the city, which currently has 180 short-term rentals, is now looking at putting a cap on the industry, a decision that Tupin believes could really harm the entire community.
It's the rights of the people in this area, it's the business owners in this area, and it's just the life and blood of this whole community.
I think the goal was to examine the issue and try to put some guardrails on it.
Red Lodge Mayor Kristen Cogswell says that the decision isn't final and that the proposal has some allowed growth built into the potential cap.
The current proposal would allow an additional 50% more units. We've given it a pretty comfortable margin so that it will allow some growth, and then we'll have more data to look at it.
Cogswell says that the primary motivation behind the change would be to find a balance between homes in the area available for visitors and still having places available for people to live.
We just want to make sure that we have the tools in place to continue to guide the growth of this community.
But Tupin argues that the tourism economy in Red Lodge can be fragile.
We already have so many different risk factors, so I think trying to limit something that is already got natural limitations to it, it just seems like a risky idea.
In Red Lodge, Charlie Kleps, MTN News.